Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another video. Today we're going to be going over a topic that I think is actually very important, which is going to be the top 5 underrated Pokemon. I did a similar video for this in the BDSP meta, and I wanted to do a video like this for the Sword and Shield Series 12 metagame because there are some Pokemon that I've noticed that I think are not getting as much play as they deserve. Pretty much the way it's going to be ordered is what I think is least underrated to most underrated out of the top 5, if that makes sense. So for example, I think certain things are underrated, but they're still seeing play, so like they're not, as I guess what's it called? They're not as unused. It's more so like underrated, right? So with that in mind, we're gonna get right into it. But yeah, so first Pokemon I wanted to talk about. This is going to be our number 5. Is going to be Gastrodon. Gastrodon is a Pokemon that I find that is actually insanely good in this format, and people don't even realize it yet. You have a Pokemon that completely invalidates one common archetype in the format. Zacian and Kyogre. Zacian and Kyogre, the only thing that Zacian has to hit Gastrodon is Play Rough, potentially, or a fighting move, right? And Sacred Sword isn't doing much damage. And Gastrodon absolutely demolishes Zacian along with Kyogre, right? If you can find the right team to get Gastrodon on and use it properly, you can put yourself in such an incredibly good spot just because the two restricteds on the opposing team can hit you. And if you look at most of those teams, they don't actually carry a good way to hit Gastrodon. Mungus doesn't usually run a grass move, right? You don't usually have, Tornadus able to do too much damage as long as you position the Gastrodon correctly. And yeah, you just have like a lot of good options there. And Max Quake from Gastrodon is really good for boosting its special defense. It can be a really good potential max option. So it's just a super cool Pokemon. I really think that Gastrodon is so underrated right now. And I really hope to see it like pop off. It's so cool. It did hit number 1 on ladder recently. I was scrolling through Twitter. I saw something about that. But yeah, it's super cool Pokemon. I think it's super worth checking out and using. I'll go through the main sets that it can use. On the Patreon, it's gonna have all the main sets for these Pokemon. I'm gonna be uploading that after this video is posted. But pretty much like the main, like with EVs, I mean. So like I'll have the EVs and everything up on the Patreon. But yeah, this is like a pretty standard Gastrodon set. Obviously you can run different sets as well, but yeah. So for number 4, I actually wanted to do the Pokemon that's on the thumbnail, Gothitel. So Gothitel's really strong because of its trapping, right? Now people typically tend to underrate Shadow Tag pretty consistently, I feel like. And Shadow Tag is a really good trapping ability that can just kind of ruin opponents' momentum because you can stop them from moving, right? You can kind of put them in positions where basically you're able to spam Hypnosis, and if you're next to a really offensive partner, you can do a lot of work, right? Gothitel is super useful too because of its fast fake out, right? Fast fake out, being able to trap stuff like opposing Incineroars in is actually like so nasty because you can fake out, right? Swap something else in that absolutely destroys like the 2 Pokemon on the field, and they can't do anything to like pivot out. Along with Hypnosis to stop that, you have a lot of cool options. And I just think like it's an option that's super cool, and like just it really has a lot of options in that regard, right? Like you're obviously not running offensive moves on it for the most part. Like there's no reason to. You really just want like support moves on it. It does get access to some other helpful support moves. Ally Switch for disruption, Hypnosis for sleep, Helping Hand, right? It even gets Imprisoned to block Trick Room if like that's how you want to do it, or Taunt, right? So it has a lot of good disruption options, and this thing's like incredibly impressive, especially too because its speed's not even bad, right? Like if you were to run max speed on Gothitel, like this is a pretty decent fake out speed here. You're actually pretty much every Rillaboom. You're beating all Incineroars. You're beating pretty much every fake outer except for the really fast ones, right? So it's just, I don't know. It's just like a crazy mon to me. I really think it has some potential, especially next to certain restricteds that can put on a bunch of damage. And I think it's incredibly underrated. I almost think it might be a better partner for Zacian and Kyogre than like the typical Tornadus build. But, obviously we'll see as like the format progresses. Yeah, anyway, so that's Gothitel. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you want like the sets or anything, it'll be on the, what's it called? Be on the Patreon as I mentioned, but like yeah, you'll see like here like you can run like Hypnosis, Helping Hand, Fake Out, Protect, and then you have like Focus Sash or like some kind of berry, right? And it's just incredibly useful, right? You can do a lot with it, so it's super nice there. So then the next Pokemon I wanted to touch on that I thought was pretty nice overall is actually Diago. So Diago might surprise a lot of people because I typically don't recommend Pokemon that are focused on maxing early very fast. Besides like stuff like Venusaur, because they can be played a bit more defensively. But Dialga's really strong. Dialga basically has the widest coverage move pool of like any special attacker. Like, let me just put this in perspective for you, okay? Blizzard, Power Gem, and if you don't like Blizzard, you can run Ice Beam, by the way. It gets Flamethrower, it gets Thunder and Thunderbolt, it gets Draco Meteor, it gets Flash Cannon, it gets Earth Power. Those are all useful stab moves, and it has so much coverage on it. Like, the fact that you can run Blizzard, Earth, what's it called? Like, Max Quake, Power Gem, and then like a fire move is actually insane. Like, you can actually cover so many things with this. And this Pokemon is basically only limited to like the moveset you give it, right? Like, obviously you can't give it every single move, but it has so much potential and so many different things it can do. And interesting enough, it's actually a really good partner next to Gothitel. So I'm kind of happy I mentioned it, because it's just like a super, super nice option. Also, its speed tier allows you to outspeed Landorus. No, it doesn't outspeed Landorus if Landorus is 157, but like anything that's like slower Landorus, you just outspeed it and nuke it with like Max Hailstorm, right? So it's just incredibly useful there. And it's so, look at how high this special attack is, even with like no investment. So if you're just to run like Life Orb like this, like even without being modest, you do so much damage. So it's like incredibly cool. It's a really sick mon, in my opinion. So it's just super, super dope. I would recommend checking it out. I also think too, the thing in this format that's really underrated is like Max Wormwind. Max Wormwind is so crazy for like shutting down so many different Pokemon, and it can create so many unique pins as long as there's not a fairy type on the opposing side. So like you bait out someone's Zacian, like the other slot can't really swap into Max Wormwind unless they have like a fairy type, right? Which is like actually insane, or like a steel, but like even then you're still taking damage, right? But yeah, just like super cool in general. Like I really like Diago in this format. I think it's like a really nice option, and I'd expect it to pop up more often, especially next to Gothitel, which seems to be a really good partner for it. So yeah, definitely good. For number 2, it's actually going to be Solgaleo. So Solgaleo is something that might surprise a lot of people, but the main reason why it's here is if you look at the steel types in the format that can Dynamax, because we're going to ignore Zacian and Zamazenta, obviously, it's pretty much Dialga, Duskmane, which is kind of inferior Solgaleo in this format, in my opinion. Metagross, which is worse Solgaleo, right? And then, like, everything else is kind of bad. So, like, with that being said, you have, like, very little steel options. And, like, this is one of the only steel max options that can actually do something, right? Also, too, this got second place in a ladder tournament with, like, 202 participants. I think Casti used it. I'll link the tweet probably in the description or something. I might not, but, like, I'll probably bring it up at some point. But pretty much, Solgaleo is just able to deal like a bunch of damage and just be super aggressive, and you can really take advantage of that, especially with its max coverage. Like, it actually has a decent amount of coverage moves, and like it's like really strong on the physical end, right? And its speed tier is not bad. Like, it gets Stone Edge, it gets Rock Slide, it gets Earthquake. You also get Sunsteel, you get Flare Blitz, you get access to just a ton of useful moves. Even Max Darkness, Max Fighting, like you have so many good options here that you can utilize. So it's just it's a super cool mon. Even Psychic Fangs too, which is like psychic coverage, like that can snipe like Venusaur, you know. But yeah, no, it's just like a super cool mon. I think that it actually is like incredibly underrated. It was something that was used in Sun and Moon series in back in like 2019, right? But like obviously it hasn't seen play since then, especially not really too much in series 11, because it just wasn't that phenomenal. I mean, it was used a little bit in series 8, but it wasn't like that used. So yeah, but yeah, typically steel type Pokemon are like really good in early restricted formats just because people kind of have trouble dealing with them. And I think Solgaleo actually, when it's on the field, is really difficult to deal with. Like, I've played versus Solgaleo, and I've had like, yeah, I've literally been using like Yveltal, and I've still had trouble getting rid of Solgaleo. So like, I think it's just an incredibly solid mon if you can get it in the right position, which is super cool. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for Solgaleo. I mean, obviously you have a lot of coverage moves on it. You have basically the equivalent of Clear Body, which is like insane. And then you have the option of obviously just like kind of being faster than Metagross. So you can do a little bit more in that regard as well. So just incredibly nice there. And then I don't know what you guys think the final Pokemon is, but my number 1 underrated Pokemon is actually going to be Lunala. So the reason why I think Lunala is actually incredibly underrated is because everyone thinks that because Calyrex Shadow exists, like Lunala's bad. but bulky Trick Room that like basically can't be one shot by anything is like really cracked. Also, too, with how common Calyrex ice teams are right now, you absolutely demolish them. Like you literally lead Fake Out plus Lunala and just Moongeist to Mimikyu, and they're absolutely screwed. Like they can't even do anything. You could even Fake Out Meteor Beam if like you're calling the Mimikyu swap, right? So you can like do a bunch and like just exert a bunch of pressure. Along with that, you get access to Wide Guard, which is like one of the most useful like spread blocking moves pretty much in the game. Because you know, a lot of restricted's gonna have like those spread moves, so you're kind of able to do that. Also, the coverage of Ghost and Rock is like really tough for any Pokemon to swap into, because as Meteor Beam, you can actually snipe Incineroars, right? I wouldn't say it's a great max candidate, but I think that's what makes it good. The fact that like you don't need to max it for it to be good, and the fact that it works really well next to like some Trick Room partners like Kyogre or like Kyogre or like Groudon. I just think that's like a super cool option. So yeah, I just think it's a really nice bond. I just genuinely think it has a lot of potential, and I hope to see it kind of pop off a little bit. Because I think that with its bulky Trick Room and like the Pokemon it can work with, it can do a lot of work. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for Lunala. I mean, obviously it has like some standard sets. It's I feel like its sets are the least complicated out of everything on this list, because like for the most part you kind of have some straight options. Like you either run Wide Guard or you run Protect, right? And then you have like these two moves. So you can also run a Psychic move, but I don't really think that's worth. And then obviously you run Power Herb. So this is the one mon that has a very basic set, but I just think it's super strong, and like we're gonna see it pop up more. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I just wanted to do a quick top 5, pretty much talking about the top 5 Pokemon I thought were underrated. Maybe inspire some ideas from you guys and kind of talk about what they do. Hopefully that was a interesting enough video for you guys to maybe check some of these Pokemon out, because I really think some of them deserve some extra love or like attention that they don't have. As a couple things to note as well, there are some Steel types on here, right? There are 2 Steel types restricted, so it kind of shows you how good the Steel type is. And also you'll see that the other one is a Trick Room setter, right? Which kind of shows you that like, or 2 Trick Room setters rather. So there's like some interesting options there, right? In terms of like restricting your opponent's play. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for all the support as always. Make sure to support me on Patreon if you guys would like to support me beyond these videos, and make sure to check out coaching if you guys would like to improve your game. I incredibly appreciate it, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.